This video is brought to you by Sayorite. Visit Sayorite.com for all your project supplies, tools, and instructions. When sewing long lengths of zipper, it's important to use match-up marks. Match-up marks help line up the second half of the zipper as you sew it. If they're not used, the second half of your zipper may not line up with the first, and your application may not zip up so that both sides are even. In this video, we'll show you how to install a zipper using match-up marks to ensure that both sides are sewn on consistently. Match-up marks are definitely required when making something like a Sayorite Genoa sleeve, which is a very long fabric sock with a long length of zipper in it. To begin with, we're going to start with the basting and then the sewing of the first half of the zipper. On the edge of the fabric where the zipper is to be installed, mark the overall width of the zipper. The edge of the fabric will be folded back to that line to create a single hem, and it's there that the zipper will be sewn on. This mark is 1.5 inches from the raw edge of the fabric, so we're using the Sayorite canvas patterning ruler to mark a line down the entire length of our fabric assembly. The line should be placed on the inside of whatever your fabric is. We struck the line on both sides of this fabric assembly where the zipper will be installed. We prefer to baste the hem in place, so here we're using double-sided tape and placing it along the edge of our fabric assembly. Some prefer to sew the zipper to the edge, then fold the fabric, then sew the zipper yet again. That process creates 2 stitches to secure the zipper, and the more stitches, the more the fabric and the zipper will have a tendency to shrink. This process only results in 1 stitch. Here we are peeling back the transfer paper, revealing the double-sided tape, and creating our single hem to the line that we struck on the fabric, all the way down this fabric assembly's length. The hem was folded back to the wrong side, or the inside, of our fabric assembly. We're using a YKK number 10 coil zipper, and it has teeth on the top side and no teeth on the bottom. The teeth on the top is where we will install double-sided tape, but first we need to take apart the zipper, the 2 halves of the zipper. Separate it all the way down the length of the zipper. Then we'll take one portion of that zipper, doesn't matter which, and we'll apply basting tape to the side with the zipper's teeth, right along the outer edge of the flange. To make it easier to apply the seam stick, we placed a sandbag on the zipper and pull against the sandbag. That way we can tension the zipper as we apply the basting tape. The weight of the sandbag keeps the zipper taut as you apply the seam stick. As you need more zipper to baste, simply keep pulling it from underneath the sandbag as you go. We will apply the seam stick to both halves of the zipper on the side that has the teeth. Both sides of our fabric assembly have been prepared for the placement of the zipper, but we only want to install one side of the zipper now, and then we want to create match-up marks for the second side since the zipper is so long. We've peeled off the transfer paper on the flange of the zipper and are basting the zipper so the teeth are basically flush with the fold of that single hem. A coil zipper has teeth that are facing one direction. Those teeth are facing down against the table or the single hem. Try not to stretch the zipper as you baste it to the sleeve. A little bit of stretching is normal, but we want to try to keep it as minimal as possible. We do not recommend cutting zippers to size until both sides are sewn on. So right now we're going to just peel off the excess glue that's on this extra length of zipper and break it off at the fabric assembly. This is an outside application, and our teeth of the zipper are hidden underneath the hem that we created. This prolongs the life of the zipper by keeping the teeth hidden from the sun. The hem and the zipper have been basted in place. Now we can sew it. We're using the Sayorite Ultrafeed LSC1. It has a needle positioning lever, which we positioned all the way to the right, so our straight stitch is about 1/8 inch away from the zipper's teeth. Reversing at the beginning helps to lock our stitch in place. Then we want to check stitch tension to make sure there's not too much tension. Too much tension will cause too much puckering of the fabric and shorten up your assembly even more. A longer stitch length will also help to reduce puckering. Here we are sewing a 6mm straight stitch. We will sew all the way to the other end, and when we reach it, we'll do some reversing there as well. One side of our very long zipper has been sewn down. It's now time to sew the second side down. Its process starts in the same way but changes. Here we are basting the single hem in place just like we did for the first zipper on the other side. Basting tape has also been applied to the second portion of the zipper just like we did previously. Now we will match up the two ends and zip those two halves together, being sure the ends are even with each other. To attach the zipper, a zipper slider needs to be used. We will zip it together all the way down the length of this very long zipper. Before we can baste the other side of the zipper to our assembly, we need to create match-up marks. Here, the slider can be removed once you reach the opposite end. Both halves of the zipper are now zipped together. Now we will use a marking pencil. Here we're using a chalk pencil and mark the flange on both sides on the underside of the zipper. We will place these marks every 2 to 3 foot down the length of our zipper. This is extremely important in long runs of zippers. Why is that? It's because the length of zipper can change when basting and sewing. Even if you try hard not to apply too much pull to the zipper when basting, it's almost impossible not to change the overall length in the process. Once the match-up marks are placed down the entire length of zipper, 2 to 3 feet apart, take a square and place it over the marks you made on the zipper's flange and transfer a mark to the other side of the fabric assembly. This mark should be directly across from the marks that you made on the zipper's flange. This will make it possible to baste the other half of the zipper to the other side of the fabric assembly so that it does not stretch or shrink as it's being basted and sewn. It'll match up perfectly to the other side's zipper. If you skipped this step and just sewed the other side of the zipper on, chances are that the ends would be off by several inches. No big deal, you just cut the ends off, right? No. Actually, that would twist or warp the entire fabric assembly once the zipper is zipped up, so it's very important to do this step. Basting and sewing the second half of the zipper is next. Now that the match-up marks are applied, we can remove the opposite side of the zipper that we previously zipped to the one that's sewn down. We'll remove the transfer paper and start basting it in place on the opposite side, just like we did with the first, except for this time we're going to use the match-up marks. And if they're off while we're basting, which they probably will be, we'll have to make modifications. This is the first match-up mark that looks like we're going to be off. In fact, we're off by about an inch here. So what do? Simple. You remove the basted zipper and you either stretch the zipper or shrink the zipper as you rebaste it. Since this match-up mark on the zipper went past the match-up mark on the fabric, we need to shrink the zipper as we baste it down. And the nice thing is we only need to rip it off to the last match-up mark that was correct and no more. Zippers are easily manipulated by pulling or compressing them slightly as they are basted down. To shrink up the zipper, we're simply pushing the zipper towards the opposite end slightly, which creates very, very small wrinkles. We don't want any major wrinkles, we just want the flange to be a little bit pushed together, and now you can see the match-up mark is almost directly on top of itself. I find the best way to baste the zipper while matching it up to the marks is to start basting at the match-up mark and work backwards to the last basted down match-up mark. In doing it this way, you can easily tell if you have too much zipper or too little, and you can make modifications as you baste. This one came out perfectly. Continue basting the zipper down the length of your assembly as shown here. Before we move on, we want to show an application where we had to stretch the zipper, which results in too much fabric. In this situation, the fabric it is basted to will be too long. You can see that in the wrinkled up edge of the fabric. So here we need to even out the excess cover fabric. In other words, smooth it out, distributing the excess fabric along the length of the zipper evenly. So this is unacceptable. You can't just baste the zipper down and have a large wrinkle in your cover fabric. So we'll have to unbaste a portion of the zipper and pull our fabric so that we can take out the excess fabric that's along the length of that zipper. What you're trying to do here is eliminate the wrinkles and keep the zipper down flat and the fabric down flat while still having the match-up marks be perfectly on top of each other. We still have a few too many wrinkles here, so we're going to unbaste a little bit more of the zipper and distribute those wrinkles along the entire length of the zipper from match-up mark to match-up mark. Now that looks pretty good. Alright, on to the next match-up mark. Since the placement of the zipper is very important, we recommend using a heavy object or the Sayrite canvas patterning ruler along the flange of the zipper and securing it or basting it very well to the cover fabric. This just ensures that our basting tape will hold as we take it to the sewing machine and sew. When you use a heavy object or the canvas patterning ruler on top of the flange of the zipper, be sure the match-up marks are not moving, since you are applying pressure to the flange of the zipper yet again. Now we can take the opposite side of the zipper to the sewing machine and sew it on. As we sew it, we want to check for tension, obviously, that's what we're doing here, and we also want to be ensured that our match-up marks are directly on top of the marks that we placed on the fabric assembly as we basted it down. Those are the appropriate steps that you should take when installing long zippers. Coming up next is a materials list and the tools that we used in this video. The project that we were working on was called the Sayrite Genoa sleeve. It's a sleeve that goes over a furled sail on a sailboat. If you'd like to see the video of that entire process, click the link here. I'm Eric Grant, and from all of us here at Sayrite, thanks for watching.